awesome con been?
I've been having a good time.
I love it.
You guys having a good time? Anyone here yesterday? 2-day passes. All right.
There were people here Friday as well. I mean, it was.
That's right.
It was so fun to see the guest interaction, right? The people who purchase the tickets, who come here and have a chance to talk to you down at your booth. I imagine for both of you, do you have, when people come up to get, an autograph or a photo with you, which they're doing that again today as well, they must tell you something you did when you were working on the show changed their life. Do you hear that a lot? We heard it yesterday when you and I talked.
Yeah. I mean, I get, my favorite thing that people say is I grew up with you. And recently, I've been hearing a lot, I said this yesterday in the panel, but I've been hearing a lot recently, I go to bed with you. Or I go to sleep.
Here we go.
I guess I should
Even better.
I guess, everybody likes that comfort TV. I get it, because I do Friends, or How I Met Your Mother, or so, there's those shows that you watch before you go to bed, and that's been a big compliment to hear.
So, and I'm coming to you with that question next, but this reminds me, and do come up to the microphone to get your questions asked. When you say comfort television, what I love about that is oftentimes, even the darker version of Sabrina the Teenage Witch and shows like Black Mirror, I can't watch those. I can't. When you say go to bed with you, right? It's stressful. I don't want stressful.
I just started streaming or binging, I guess, Lost. We'd never seen it before.
Oh, it's so good. But it'll keep you up.
But it freaks me out.
It does.
I don't know why. I watch freakier things than that, like Handmaid's Tale or Game of Thrones. But Lost is really freaking me. I don't know if it's the music, but it freaks me out.
Good.
I gotta watch something else. My husband's snoring, and I'm like, nope. I gotta get to How I Met Your Mother. I can't go to bed on this.
Right, exactly. What's that like for you when people come down and say, "Hey, man, you really brought us so much joy"?
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I love that people still enjoy it. I love the stories that they tell me, they were going through a bad day and then they watched Kenan and Kel or all that and they put a big smile on their face. And that's why I like doing the cons, because I get to hear the cool stories of how it made them feel. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to scoot my chair back because it occurs to me that I'm a little far forward. Probably you guys are stuck looking at the knots in the back of my hair because it was a disaster getting ready this morning. Let's go for a question over here. What's your name? Where are you from?
Hi, I'm Heather Marie. I live in Washington, D.C.
Hey.
Hi, Heather Marie.
Melissa, this is a question for you. First of all, Clarissa was my style icon in the 90s.
That is something I do hear a lot, is that people got into fashion because of Clarissa, or I heard someone say to Beth Broderick yesterday, who played Aunt Zelda on Sabrina, that they got into science because of her. They became scientists. So that's always awesome.
Will Wheaton was talking about that as well, which I have to love that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm curious if you think that Clarissa and Sam ever end up together.
What do you think?
I think so, when they get older and they realize.
There is a book, actually, that the writer, Mitchell Kriegman, wrote called Things I Can't Explain, and it was a later version of Clarissa. And we were working on a reboot for Nickelodeon for a minute there, but the heads all changed, and it just got, I guess, it just disappeared. But his version, Mitchell, the showrunner, the creator, he's been living with this version of Clarissa, which I think is he was thinking about how she grows up. I've been thinking about her in the past. Whenever I talk to you guys, I talk about who she was and what she did and how she, what she wore and how she behaved and what she believed. And so I think I still hold on to her as she was. And I feel like the fans kind of do too, but there's things I can't explain. You guys should check it out, because I wonder if you would agree with it. In that book, apparently, I actually stopped reading it because I got kind of disturbed. Mom and Dad are divorced, and Clarissa lives in the city, but she doesn't like the city. It was weird. It was we had done a CBS pilot. We were going to bring it to CBS, and she was going to New York City. She was going to be a journalist, and we did this great pilot, and it was all about her becoming a journalist in New York City and being adventurous and loving the pulse of the city. And then the book, a few years later, 20 years later, is the opposite. She's terrified of the city and she's scared of everything. And I was I think that the writer kind of took it, made it a middle-aged man going through a midlife crisis instead of who Clarissa was. So I don't know. I'd be curious if you guys next con, you guys come out and tell me what you think of the book.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Hi, question over here.
Wait, I didn't really answer. I guess.
wait, let me go back to that.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's too much of a special relationship.
Awesome. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm Danielle from Salem, Mass.
Hi, Dan.
Hey.
Very nice.
So I was wondering, as actors on shows geared towards children your own age, did you guys get to have any input on the content in the shows?
I like that question. That's a really good one.
Yeah, we totally did on all that. A lot of my characters that I did in the audition room, I was able to put into the show. The writers did a lot of that. I had a coach that was like really, really mean to us in Chicago, and he was like, "Nobody cares about Valentine's," and it was literally like that. And they took that and made that coach creepy, you know, with him screaming all the time. And then I did Ed in the room as well because I love Bill and Ted, Excellent Adventure, Saved by the Bell. So I was like, "Well, dude, yeah, good, dude, yeah." So I did those voices in there, and the writers would bring us in a room, play with us, you know, as far as like, what type of characters do you want to do, and we would create together, which was cool that they let kids do that at the same time, so that was pretty awesome, yeah.
I mean, the only example I can really think of is that the Clarissa audition, the producer asked me, it was my third audition, which was just to sit down with the producer, and he's a tough cookie. And he was like, "Do you like New Kids on the Block?" And I went, I hate them. And then I went, "Oh gosh, he's in the industry, he probably knows that, it's probably his nephew." I just blew this, like I just totally blew this. And I'm sitting there in my head just going, what an idiot I am, what an idiot, like I just blew this. And he was like, "Well, who do you like?" And I was like, "They Might Be Giants." And next thing you know, They Might Be Giants is on the wall of Clarissa's bedroom. And so in those ways, yeah, I mean, there are some things the producer put in there. She would never wear purple, although if you come to my booth, there's a Clarissa photo and I'm in purple leggings, so that's weird. But I think it's the only time that purple ever shows up on the show. He refused, he put it in the Bible, like every TV show has a Bible, and it's like the rules of the show, and there would never be purple displayed on Clarissa or in her room or something like that. So, and I've always asked him what that was about, and he was like, "I just wanted to see if people would follow the rule." So, yeah. At first he wouldn't tell us. It was only recently that he's like, "Yeah, I just wanted to see if people would do that, if I could like have that power." But yeah, I mean, I guess in ways like, I actually created an episode. I wanted my little sister on my show, on Clarissa, and I wanted to do an episode where Clarissa babysits like a total bad seed, and I wanted to be played by my little sister who's 10 years younger than me, Emily, who played Amanda in Sabrina years later. And funny enough, voices Clarissa in that book, Things You Can't Explain. She does the audiobook. But I wanted my sister Emily on it, and then the writers wrote the episode, and then they cast Michelle Trachtenberg instead of my sister. I was like, "Well, I love Michelle, but I wanted my sister in the show." But yeah, so in some ways they took what I said, but I'm also not one of the actors that likes to change things in a script. I like to try to make it work the way they saw it. So I don't often make a lot of script changes or anything like that, but I try to influence.
So they never came to you and said, "Hey, what do you think that people your age would want to see?"
No, not really, but they do. I feel like every TV show, they make you fill out some kind of form. And they're like, "What can you do?" And I was like, "I can play the flute." So if you watch Clarissa, I play the flute. And I can do ballet. Okay, let's put you in some ballet slippers for an episode. Or, you know, so you find out what people's talents are. Like on Sabrina, Harvey, Nate, Richard was a great dancer. So they did a scene where like he got a magical spell put on him and he does this whole routine. Because he could actually pull that off, you know? So finding out people's talents, they usually infuse the show with those sorts of things. But I can't say other than that They Might Be Giants that I really had a lot of influence. I would say things I didn't want to do. I'm like, I don't want to wear that. I don't want to say that. That's uncomfortable. That makes me awkward, like feel awkward, so.
Thank you.
That is a great question. I think so. Purple's like the green M&M that you hear that the musicians put in their writers, right? No green M&Ms, just to see if you actually read the document. I have never, in all of the Comic-Cons that I've done, have ever heard about the show Bible until today. So I will come to you, but I've got to get this. Tell me more. So you say every show has, and is that like a known phrase? If I went up to someone else on episodic TV and was like, "Hey, tell me about your show Bible," they would know? Like, is that? So, and what is in the book? Like when you say show
I've
Bible?
actually never seen a Bible, but everybody has to. I just recently went back to college in the fall and took a course on screenwriting, and you could either, in the class, you could either be writing a TV show or you could write a movie script. And if you were writing a TV show, you had to create a Bible. But I wasn't part of the TV show writing, so I should know it. Do you know? Have you seen a Bible?
Yeah, it's really just all like the rules that are in there as far as like this is how the show goes, it's the outlines, it's the breakdowns, it's what actually happens with the show. And so that way,
I would imagine Young Sheldon, like I work on Young Sheldon, and I can't imagine the Bible on that thing because the prophecy from Big Bang Theory is so severe. Dad has to have a heart attack, dad has to cheat on mom, like the things that have to happen because of what they've already put in the show before. So the timeline of things, like by the time Sheldon is this age, something has to happen, and he has to go to college at this age because they said it in the show before. So they have to follow the rules, right? Sort of.
Yeah, and they mix up the writers sometimes, and so it's so that they can stay with the story. Because if they don't stay with the story, then it's like, what show am I watching now? You know, so then it's, oh, go to the show Bible, refer back to it. You know what I mean?
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, especially when you have a whole team of writers and people do move on and off shows.
When they do, that's like Sabrina, we had one person wrote the pilot, then we had a showrunner for the first season, but then we had a different showrunner for season 2 and 3, and then different one for 4 and 5, and you know, you're constantly switching people out, and each showrunner wants to create different characters. People always ask me why certain people didn't stay on Sabrina and whatnot. It's because each showrunner, I think, gets paid on the characters they develop. So if they bring in a new character, then they get paid on that character. So it kind of, you know, is beneficial to them to kick people out and bring in fresh
favorite
blood.
characters die because someone got a good idea and wants to bring in someone new to get paid? I don't like this. I don't like this.
Game of Thrones, they must have got paid a lot.
No, seriously, I do not.
1 minute you think it's this guy's show, next minute it's that guy. I'm like, what's going on? Whose show is this?
And it just gets more, and I read the books and I knew it was coming and it was still so brutal. Let's get to, right? Let's get to a question over here. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm Margarita from Alexandria.
Hello, Margarita.
And my question is, if you could go back, what piece of advice would you give your Nickelodeon era self? And part 2, what advice would you give to the current generation of the Disney stars out there?
Okay.
You have good perspective.
Okay, so as far as like the new generation of kids, I was able to actually do that, which was fun. When we brought all that back in 2019, me and Keenan, I was able to tell the kids something that I wish was told to me. So I told them that this is not the thing that makes you special. All right, you were made special when you were born in the womb, when you were born. And so this is a job, and this is just a journey that you're gonna be on for a long time. You know what I mean? Whether you decide to keep acting or not, this is just a stepping stone. And I wanted them to understand that so that they can have a good sense of self, and know who they are and know their worth. And then that way they enjoy the experience. So it's not a lot of like competition or getting caught up in the character of who you're playing, you know? So that was one thing that I told the new generation. And then as far as myself, I would say enjoy the moment. Enjoy every moment from it all, because I think I was just so like, I mean, it helped to an extent, but at the same time, I was just really like, this got to be the funniest thing ever. And you know what I mean? When I've got all these characters, and I was like, I mean, it was good because I was competing with myself every day with the characters, but at the same time, I was not really enjoying it to the point of enjoy every moment. I was really just kind of going focused, you know what I mean, on making it really crazy, but then at the same time, still saying, hey, I was a teen at the same time too. It was a lot that I took in as far as like an adult role with growing up and adulting in front of the public eye, you know what I mean? So I would just tell myself, hey, it's gonna be all right. Yeah.
Gosh, I just got to direct the cast of iCarly. They're not young, they're younger than me, but they're obviously grown-ups now. But I feel like, I don't know, when I work with younger kids and whatnot, I mean, a big thing for me in the industry is making sure that just because you're the star of a show, you don't act like the boss. You're still part of a bigger crew of people that work together to make this show come alive, and with any one person you can't do it. So trying to make sure that like the younger generation doesn't let this go to their heads. I mean, there's all these YouTube stars and all these, people coming up, and my kids think that, YouTube stars are just the most brilliant, amazing, and kids on Nickelodeon, and it looks like they've got it all going on, but they're still kids, and I think they still need to act like kids, but they need to respect adults, and they need to, be professional if you're going to be on set. But I think that probably the advice I wish I was given, I wish I had stayed in school. I wish I hadn't kind of been forced to do like a homeschool situation, it was tutoring. Nowadays you would call it virtual or whatever, but or like homeschooling. But I wish I had stayed in a school setting in a social atmosphere, because I was pulled out of it to do the show and thrown into sort of a big job, a big career with a lot of pressure. By the time I was acting since I was 4, but by the time I was 14, I was doing Clarissa, like 13, 14. And it was like right around the time when I was going to high school, and I no longer had friends. I had the 2 boys on the show, and I had whoever rolled into the stage next door to me. But not like, everybody was kind of in and out of my life, and I learned really quickly to say goodbye to people that meant a lot to me in a short amount of time. So it was hard. It didn't really nurture a lot of friendships. I'm still very, very close with the people who worked on Clarissa. There's the producer's assistant and my wardrobe girl, Michelle and David. They are my kids' godparents. I just saw them last week in Connecticut, and I'm really close with them. You probably know Michelle. So I stayed close with some of the people, but they were a lot older than me, and so I had to kind of grow up quick. So I would probably say to like the next generation, hold tight to friendships, do good in school, keep looking forward. Like this is a job, and you need to save your money, and then you can, but don't put all your eggs in this basket. Like, keep moving forward.
That's a great question, Margarita. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you get pulled out of school, you're doing the tutoring, and now you just mentioned you've gone back to college. So what is that? Tell me about that then. That's a perfect segue, right? I'm curious about this screenwriting.
Yeah, no, you know what, I realized I fought so hard not to learn the industry because I felt like I was in the industry. I wanted to learn other things. So I did go to NYU off and on for 7 years, never graduated. But I studied everything except our industry. I studied sociology and child psychology, and I dabbled in everything to try to find something, Italian Renaissance. And I was like, I gotta find something for when this acting thing fails, what am I gonna do? But I should have been probably just honing in on a craft, like directing and writing. So now I'm working more on that. I've been directing for 20 years, but I'm really focused on directing, and now I want to write because I realize as a non-writing producer, it's not as easy as being a writing producer to get the things made that you want to get made. So I called Bill Murray and said, I wanted to write this movie, will you be in? He's like, did you write it? And I was like, no. He's like, oh, okay, send it to me. But had I written it, he'd probably be like, let's do it, that's cool, you wrote it and you're directing it, let's do it. But, so I was like, I really need to get this writing thing, I need to figure out, I didn't think I could write. I thought I'm a bad writer. And then I was like, well, no, I've never tried. Maybe I should take some classes and try. So I read some books, I talked to some people I know in the industry that write, like Nick Bakay, who played the cat on Sabrina. He's the showrunner of Mom, and he was the showrunner of King of Queens, and did some big shows. So I was like, hey, you're gonna mentor me. Actually, I owe him a script. It was due on Friday.
Classic college experience.
Might be a few more weeks till he gets that one. Been a little busy. But so I'm also a lifelong learner. I just love learning, and I was a good student, and I hate that I was pulled out of school because I was such a good student, and the kind of environment we grew up in didn't really lend itself to getting an education. It was all about do the minimum so that you can be on set for maximum.
Okay, thank you. Question over here, hi.
Hi, JC from Frederick, Maryland.
Hi, JC.
This question's for Kel.
Hey.
Given how serious Coolio took himself back in the 90s, how he didn't want Weird Al doing that parody, how did you guys get him to do the theme song for Kenan and Kel?
What was cool about all that in Kenan and Kel, it was Nickelodeon's, they wanted to get more diversity, you know what I mean, which was cool, and so it was their first time trying this, and all that was actually a special, because Nickelodeon had never did anything like this, with a whole bunch of hip-hop and all that stuff like that. So with the success of all that, and them seeing Kenan and I behind the scenes, they wanted to spin off and do the Kenan and Kel show, and Brian Robbins was very good friends with Russell Simmons and with Universal Universal Interscope Records. And so we had Coolio come on and do the show, and it helped because on all that, we had every musical guest. I mean, we had Usher, we had TLC, everybody. So Coolio was excited to do it, and he loved Good Burger. He was already in some Good Burger sketches. And I remember when we did it, we shot it at Universal City Walk, and when we did that, Coolio got on the radio station, and he told everybody, "Hey, I'm doing the theme song to Keenan and Kel, come down!" And every kid from Los Angeles was there, and it was like this big crowd, but Keenan and I loved it. It was like we were like performing with Coolio, so it was pretty cool.
He actually did a spot on Sabrina too, and I actually did some race car driving with him. He's
Yeah,
here
he's
in
great.
DC actually, and he's like a really cool, laid-back kind of guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's a really fun guy.
Yeah, we're still friends now. Yeah, he just has the 2 pieces of hair now. For real, he does. The rest is bald. That's the homie. Shout out to Coolio.
Thank you.
That was a great question. Hi, question over here.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Evans from Germantown, Maryland. I have actually a question for both of you guys as children actors. I'm a giant Star Wars fan. Kenobi series just dropped, obviously. Children actors are clearly in there. And my first thought was, oh my God, if this bombs, those kids are going to get destroyed. As children actors, how should fans support you guys through the children, through negative criticism? Because Star Wars fans, I hate to say it, can be brutal. And I just wanted to know, as a fan, how can I support these children that are taking in probably some of the biggest roles of replacing Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill?
And Stephanie, to your point, social media factors into this now, and we
Yeah,
have
see,
to
we
deal with
And
it.
I just thought, honestly, was Phantom Menace and what we did to Jake. Yeah, that was my first thought. So I
You
just
know-
wanted to know what your thoughts were on it.
I have to say, you don't. Hopefully, those kids, and I don't know who they are, but hopefully they've gone through a lot of audition process because there's a lot of rejection in this business, and you don't make it through unless you can handle rejection. So there is that aspect. Like, if you've been through the audition process, I was in the movie Crocodile Dundee, but I was cut out. And I was told while I was on a set in Vancouver shooting a movie called Christmas Snow that I was cut out of Crocodile Dundee, and it was a huge heartbreak. But I was like, all right, do you have any salt and vinegar potato chips? So I think I was used to rejection, but I didn't take it as rejection. It was just another thing that happened in the industry. But we didn't grow up with social media, so I don't know how much they'll see. Hopefully, they're just super excited to be a part of the franchise. Hopefully, they made best friends with Jon Favreau, or they're like, they get free passes to Disney. So I think they'll be okay, like in the sense that they're in this world. And I think also because the Star Wars world is so vast and huge, that there's hopefully the good will drown out the bad. So if you guys feed them with a lot of like, you know what a great franchise, oh my God, it's so amazing. Like if you see them at a con, it's so amazing that you're a part of that family. Like you get to hang out with this one and that one and be on set with this person and do that and wear that costume and get shot by a laser or whatever, I think that all that cool stuff will overpower the fact that a few people might be like, that kid sucks, he doesn't even look like him or whatever, Hopefully, you guys can drown it out with the good, and that's what their parents will feed them.
Yeah, that's why, like what I was saying earlier, telling the kids have a good sense of self and to know that this is a job of meaning and other things that you'll be doing in your life. This is not the whole thing. It's important to say that. And then within comments too, because we dealt with that. I was on a show called Game Shakers on Nickelodeon. And on that show, we had, very young kids, and people even in that were like kind of mean in the comments. Why would she wear that shirt? What is she doing? And the girls were like, oh no. And I was just like, you know what? We need to start looking at the positive comments and just focus on that, especially in social media. And I know that can be hard because I've done it too. You'll see all these, like you'll have 100 positive things and one person to say one comment that's just horrible and you're like, ugh. You know what I mean? It kind of sticks with you. And the thing about it is that I was just letting them know, like, focus on the positive. Like really try to focus on that. Don't go towards and let it ruin your entire day. Get ready for your day too as well, meaning that I'm gonna respond to love, I'm gonna respond to kindness. These people, this is a job, there's gonna be other things that are gonna be working for me in this. That's very important.
That's the other thing, when you get a job like Star Wars as an actor, they're getting a ton of other calls before that movie's even finished. they're getting a ton of other calls from producers being like, hey, there's a Spielberg movie, you wanna, or you should be, like, I worked with Nick Robinson on my show, what was it? Melissa and Joey, that show. So Nick Robinson did Jurassic World when he was on our show. And then he went off to do Love, Simon, and then he did, now he's on the show Made, and he was on the other, like, he's just got this massive career, and everybody's pulling at him, but before he even finishes one movie, you're on to the next movie. So if you're in that Star Wars world and you've been booked on it, your agents are making phone calls. He's in the next Star Wars, do you want to see him for this movie? You know, and they probably already lined up numerous jobs. So as far as their careers go, they're probably on like an uptick for sure. So hopefully they're riding that wave without letting their heads get too big. And you know, but there will be, this business is a roller coaster. It's not the kind of business where you build up to like, you know, you get the promotion, you get the corner office, and you get the big raise, and, you know, it's not a building kind of job. It's very much a like peaks and valleys. So hopefully those kids can ride that out.
Stephanie, I think I'll make it a point to ask Noah Schnapp from Stranger Things when he's here. I mean, he's got 21 million TikTok followers, you know, millions on Instagram. I'll make it a point to ask him too, as someone who is 17 and living exactly what you're talking about. So we'll get his perspective on that as well. Thank you for the question. Hi, how are you?
Hi guys, Chris, I'm from San Antonio, Texas.
Yo.
This is a question for both Keenan and Melissa. You guys were both a big part of my childhood.
I'll let Keenan know.
Sorry, Kel.
No, it's okay. We both get that. We get that all the time. You know, back and forth.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
So, you guys were both a big part of my childhood. As a child of both the 80s and the 90s. I find myself stuck in that decade sometimes, whether it's like the musical choices that I still listen to, even the clothes I still wear, even some of the words I still use. And it's often much to the amusement of the younger people that work with me and work for me at my job. A lot of jokes, old man jokes about it. Do you guys kind of find yourselves kind of stuck in the 80s and 90s as well with that? And if so, like, do the people around you kind of like to maybe like poke fun in a good-natured way and whatnot?
No. I'll say this. You know, and the thing about it is, be yourself, bro. You know what I mean? Enjoy being you. You know what I mean? I don't feel like it's a thing where you're stuck in the 90s or 80s. It's just a thing of like, look at it. Like, I'm into fashion. You know, a lot of the 90s fashion is coming back, bro. So some of the stuff you got in your closet, bro, the teens are rocking right now. You know what I mean? So don't even worry about that. Be yourself. Be excited about, you know, the things that you enjoy. You know, and if people are saying, you know, negative things, hey man, just let that bounce off. You know, you kind of let them know, like, hey, this is my style. This is who I am. You know what I mean? And I like the 90s. As far as like with me though, I'm a firm believer in like reinventing yourself and doing, you know, like I love that people love the 90s and love the shows that we were on. But I'm not like a walking TBT. You know what I mean? I always kind of tell people that, like, you know, the thing is that there's so much more to come, and there's different levels and different things that you do within your life, but you can enjoy every decade. You can enjoy what's coming up in the future. You can enjoy the present. So yeah, man, just enjoy life.
I have three, well, you have 4 kids.
I have 4.
I got 3 boys, and 2 of them are teenagers. And they tease me all the time. But the thing is, like, I listen to Lithium XM radio, like 90s rock. Like, that's all I listen to. And if I'm listening to hip hop, it's like Tribe Called Quest. It's stuff from like back, you know, when I was listening. You know, I don't listen to new music. I'm starting to know it from like dancing at weddings or going to my kid's football game. And so, you know, I know a little like Level Up, you know, whatever stuff. But like, my kids think I'm totally uncool, but I think that's normal, right? They're supposed to, right? The younger generation's supposed to. But at the same time, they also like, we went to 90s Con a few months ago, not even like, not that long ago. And it was, I mean, the fascination with the 90s is insane. So I feel like it's probably like the way in the 90s I was obsessed with the 70s. I wanted my mom's bell bottoms and, you know, little tube tops and that kind of thing. So, I mean, on Clarissa, I wore a ton of like peace signs and onks and stuff. So I feel like, you know, we always look at about 20 years previous as our style or our music as being kind of vintage cool. And the 90s is now vintage cool. So I think it's something to celebrate, you know? And it's also like, I keep saying this, it's like the last age of innocence. It was like before 9/11 changed things and we have to take off our shoes at TSA. You know, it's before big drops and big serious, it seems like serious, I know there were always serious problems. If you listen to Billy Joel, we didn't start the fire, right? There's always been problems. But, good song to listen to right now, by the way. We have to figure out how to update that. But, you know, but then like, I feel like the 90s was still an innocence. And some of these kids will never get to really experience that sort of, you know, after the Cold War. I know growing up in New York, we were doing like air raid drills in case the Russians bombed us and stuff. You know, it was like, that stuff, all those fears kind of went away in the 90s. And I feel like there was this one decade where it was like, it felt good for a minute. And, you know, you gotta know that people that were born after 2000 don't really have, 2001, really don't have that sort of sense. And so I like to celebrate it.
Thank you both, and thank you for making my childhood awesome.
Hey.
And you have found your people. I love it. Hi, question over here. How are you?
Good. Jeff from Ashburn, Virginia. My question for both of you, and that is, when you are playing a character that you're uncomfortable with, how do you make it work?
Go for it. No. I don't know.
Oh, playing a character that I'm uncomfortable with? A lot of times what I would do is, because I'm also a writer as well, but if you're on a show where you're not the writer and you have this character that you're playing, a lot of that starts with the audition process. It's like if you even want to play this character. But then if you're on set and they write something for your character that you didn't necessarily want, you can have that conversation with the producers, you know, if they're lenient to hearing what you want to say. Sometimes it's kind of like, this is what I want and this is what it is. But I feel like you have to look at it, for me, a lot of the characters that I play, it's always like, what's the end result, you know? And for me, it's always, even within the story, it always has to be some type of message at the end, and I love playing characters like that. I love movies like that. So if there's some type of message in it, and if the character does something that's a little wonky that I might not want to play, but as long as the end message is something positive that I want the audience to see or to hear, then I'll go with it. You know, I'll go with it. But other than that, then I'll definitely talk to the producers about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree about the like audition thing. Like if you get a script, like I just got a script that they wanted me to direct, and it was a really dark topic, and I wasn't really in the headspace to do it. They wanted me to rush through it too, and I was like, I don't feel like this is a topic. It was about human trafficking, and I was like, I don't feel like I can rush through this right now. I don't want to rush it. I don't want to be in that headspace right now. I know it's an important story to tell, but it's not my time to tell that story right now. So you know, I turned it down. It was a hard decision to make. But I turned it down. But as far as like acting goes, I mean, if you're auditioning and you don't like the way that character is, or you don't like the, you know, what's coming up for that character, you know, you can kind of steer away from it, or just turn it down, which is hard to do, but important to do if you really have a strong feeling about something. But it's more difficult when you're like in a series and you're like playing that character, and it's season 3, and all of a sudden they, you know, want you to do something uncomfortable. I don't know, just even like any script I get, I'm like, okay, when's the kissing scene? You know, like, who do I have to kiss? How many times? You know, what are we talking about? Is it like, you know, is it just a kiss? Is it like a makeout session? Is it like in bed? Is it, you know? So those kinds of things, like, I'm always like, all right, let's, you know, there's always gonna be uncomfortable moments in everything. Even if I have to cry, if there's a scene, if there's like, I have a movie coming out on Saturday, where it's called Dirty Little Secret on Lifetime, by the way. And it's dark, like, and I had to, but it was probably the first time I didn't freak out about like big emotional scenes. I felt pretty confident in the playing of this character and the development that I did leading into it, that I could pull off some of these harder scenes. But usually if there's like a scene where I have to cry or something, I'm like, I'm stressing about it. I'm like, oh God, I'm a really ugly crier. I turn red, I snot. Like, I don't get like the Demi Moore tear rolled down my cheek, right? I'm not like Claire Danes, I can just turn it on and one little tear goes down. I can't do that. I look totally awful. You know, people are like, what the hell's going on with you? Sorry. So I get really uncomfortable doing those sorts of scenes. But, you know, if you want to play the character and you just try to dive in, you try to be prepared, you try to work with the director or other actors, and, you know, and work through some of those uncomfortable moments. But there's always uncomfortable moments in every script.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Hi, question over here.
Hi, Sam from Illinois.
Hey.
My question obviously, being a celebrity, the effect you have on people, could you please share, I hate to say emotional, but one of your favorite moments you've had with a fan?
It's hilarious, like, you guys might get mad about this, but I love when people come up to me, when they're Clarissa fans are the cutest, because they come up and they always go, like they'll be like, oh, my daughter wanted your autograph because they like Sabrina or this one, and then Clarissa fans always do the exact same thing. They go, but I remember you from Clarissa, like I'm the only one, and it's so funny because I hear it all the time. And so if people are like, can you guess what I know you, like a gentleman yesterday, can you guess what I know you from? And I'm like, oh, it's gonna be Clarissa because he did the little eye side, like. It's gonna be Clarissa. And he was like, yeah, how'd you know? I was like, yeah, like it's so funny because Clarissa fans think they're the only ones that remember that show, which is, I just love it. I love it.
That's funny. Yeah, I would say the same within that, because I have the Cliff and the Big Red Dog fans that are like super young, and then I'll have when I got started the new shows on Nickelodeon, I would have the young kids come up that never even watched Good Burger, and then I have the mom watching. So the mom and the daughter are coming up for different reasons. But in like an emotional way, I really like those really serious stories from fans. I had one person to come up and her friend was dealing with suicidal thoughts. Not to get really deep on you, but it was just like they were coming up and it was really deep. And I always feel like when you need to really be yourself. Social media has created that for us, because I remember back in the day, people only knew us for our character. And what I use social media as is to show who I really am, And if you're coming to see, oh, I love Good Burger and I love all these shows and I love the movies that you do, but then I didn't know that you love God, you deal with motivating and all these different things, and I love that. And so a fan came up to me and said, man, I saw something about your life and about your story that you said online, and it really changed my friend's life. They were really about to take themselves out of here, and they heard how you dealt with it and how you didn't do that. And so I just want to thank you in that moment. And we both had a big hug at that moment, and I told him to continue to live. But I feel like that's what's so important, to know that we are all family and nobody's bigger than anybody else, and that we all are here for a purpose. So
thank you. We had a guy who was in your panels on Friday. His name was Marshall, and he had this great voice, he could be a voice actor, and he was like, I love that you're a Jesus freak like me, and it was just such a great moment. So when you talk about showing who you are on social media, that resonates with me.
Yeah.
Question again, we are running out of time, but I think we might, if we go quickly, maybe we can get to all of them. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Joseph from Arlington. And I remember that the shows like Keenan and Kel and Clarissa were filmed at Nickelodeon Studios, at Universal Studios Florida. And I want to ask, what was your favorite memory or moment while filming at Nickelodeon Studios?
We were talking about this backstage.
Don't tell me what you told me the other day.
No, you know what? I know. We were like, do you remember much about Nickelodeon? Because how are we going to talk about this? Guys, that was a long time ago. Okay, I've had a few kids and a few experiences, and lived in a few different cities. But yeah, Orlando was interesting. I was living in New York and going down there, but it was a brand new. What I remember is it was a brand new facility, beautiful sound stages, unlike the ones in New York and LA, which were full of asbestos. So it was nice to have a nice, clean, big, state-of-the-art studio.
Yeah.
One of the funny things is, did anyone here ever go on the tour of Nickelodeon back when it was, So do you remember the slime kitchen?
Yeah, it was slime time was a whole thing.
Yes.
So we had to go, so when you came through the tour, you could go up above the sound stages, so the tour would come through, and sometimes they'd be like, let's see what's going on down in the Clarissa soundstage, and apparently I cursed a lot. So oftentimes they'd be like, let's go see what's going on down in Clarissa, and they'd pipe in the sound, and I'd be like, let's turn that off, okay. So they were like, you have to stop cursing so much. But it was also awkward, because wardrobe, the people would walk through wardrobe, so we had to get changed in there, and it's there's a drape, and I'm there's people what's going on in here? And you're like, I'm getting naked. And then you went through the slime and gag kitchen where you got to taste. So my favorite thing to do was like stop and like have like, can I have some pudding? Thank you. Do you have any applesauce? Okay, thanks. Like they had these giant vats of applesauce and slime that they colored for the slime and the gag. So that was, I was like, a little vanilla pudding, thank you. But then makeup and hair also was there. So you're like getting made up. Luckily I was a young girl, not an old woman. And, you know, but I would get my like hair highlighted and stuff. And like I have foils in the hair and there goes the 6 p.m. tour. You're like, hi everybody. Just getting my hair done, don't mind me. So it was fun, but it was also like, you know, people would always on the street be like, oh, I saw you with the foil in your hair. You're like, oh, great. Awesome. Great tour.
I remember going to, because you had Universal Studios right there, and so you had all the crazy rides. And so Keenan and I remember we were dressed as Mavis and Clavis, the two old guys. And so we were like, let's just go on, you know, onto the park dressed as Mavis and Clavis. And so we went on the park dressed as Mavis and Clavis, and we took the golf cart, you know, like the golf cart. So we just took the golf cart, so now we're zipping through the park. And we ended up like on the actual tour. You know, you're supposed to take a tram. We were taking the cart. So now we're riding through it, and we're, oh look, there's the Psycho House, and we're just riding on it. Now you're not supposed to do this is illegal, like what we're doing. And so we're all back there, right, and we're kids. And so now security comes. We have park security that's literally following us. We're like, what are we gonna do? Like our parents are gonna kill us, you know, the producers. And so the guys came up and we're like, yo, just stay in character. And so this was improv skills on 100, right? So we're like, I'm just an old man, I don't know what's happening. I took a wrong turn over here, and they wrote us up actually as old man, and we were good. I'm an old man. Leave the park, okay? I'll just go over there. I'm gonna leave the park.
It's much more exciting. We used to just like be like, it's lunch break. Can we go on Back to the Future? Meanwhile, old lady now can't ride Back to the Future. Well, it's now Simpsons anyway. But
You guys, and on that note, we will conclude this panel, but you can get your questions answered in person. They are signing today. Let's give it up loud